All right, everybody. Now it's time for the lecture on writing thesis statements for literary analysis. So, in the text box, tell me question one: what is a thesis statement exactly? Now, in the second question here in the box, please tell me what makes a strong thesis. All right, so here's some answers. Let's see if they match what you said. So, a thesis statement, what is it? It's the most important part of your paper. It's like a foundation of the house, right? If the foundation is weak, bye bye house, right? So it's kind of the spine, the core, right, of your whole paper that holds everything together. And it's also, you can think of it as kind of a roadmap. Okay. So it's an announcement, right, of what your argument is going to be, right? What you've analyzed in a story and then you've argued, okay, that you're going to argue that you think the story's about or you think the author's trying to tell us, right? And it needs to be something you intend to prove, right, in the duration of your paper. So you should be always trying to just focus and prove on that one thing. Now, yes, you can't literally prove an opinion. And remember, thesis statements are an opinion. They are not facts. Okay. They should be something controversial that you can imagine someone disagreeing with you with. Okay. And it's important that it needs to be within the range of something that's an expected form in an expected place. There's some wiggle room, of course, but you want it to be somewhere where the reader can easily find it. And so they know what to expect from the rest of your paper. And it kind of primes them to also be focused on what you're trying to say. Okay. So thesis statements need to be in the introduction. They should be. Now, of course, in the grand scheme of things, could there be other places when we're being more creative and getting further in our writing career? Sure. But for now, it needs to be in the introduction. And one of the main reasons why is because this class is technically pre-AP. Don't worry if you're not going to go there, but the AP tests, when the graders are grading them, they're reading them in like 60 seconds or less. It's pretty crazy how fast it goes after they've normed and scored and they're ready to go. So if your thesis, I mean, technically they are supposed to give you the point for the thesis on the rubric if it's anywhere in the essay, but do you really want to risk that if it's not roundabouts they expect it to be? Okay. Because, they're not going to dig and relook like I might. Okay. So many like to put it as the last sentence of the intro or two, and that's where you should put it. Okay. And remember, thesis statements should provoke thought. They should make a person go, huh, and they're interested and there's something for them to chew on intellectually, right? And it should be read beautifully and smoothly. Okay. And usually it's about one sentence, but it can be two. Okay. 1 to 2, nothing beyond that. Okay. You want to save that for later. If you're going to go any further in detail, save that detail for later. So a thesis statement generally has 3 parts: a what, a how, and a why. You'll notice a theme in my class. I like to label things with this. Okay. The what for a thesis statement is the claim you are going to make about the text, what your argument. The how is the tools used, the authorial choices, the devices, rhetorical or literary, depending on what kind of essay we're writing. But it's the how the author argued or showed you what you think they were trying to say. And the why is the kind of universal connection. The why should I give a poop, right? There should be some kind of implied so what. There needs to be some kind of universality, right? That makes the reader care. Because, I mean, the center of the universe is a crowded place, and we all are the main character of our stories. So a lot of you have told me when you don't like a story, it's because you can't relate to it sometimes. And there you go. If you want someone to relate to your essay and like it and be persuaded, you got to have a little bit of that so what there. Okay. So let's look at some examples, and you tell me in the text boxes what you think about these thesis statements. So, is this a good thesis statement? Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn is a great American novel. Does it have the parts? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Type that. And also tell me why. Okay, this is a no-no. And here's the answer. Why? Um, this is not really, this is nothing about the story. This is just some claim about the value of the book. This is nothing about Twain's argument within the story. This is just someone's opinion about the book itself, not about Mark Twain's opinion about something about life. Okay. So it's just an opinion about the book, not an argument. Let's try another one. In Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain develops a contrast between life on the river and life on the shore. Does this have all the elements that I just showed you? Tell me in the chat box, thumbs up or thumbs down, and tell me why. All right, this one's better than the other one, but it still doesn't answer a so what. Like, what kind of philosophical point is being made through this contrast between life on the river and life on the shore? Okay, so just saying there is one is not very interesting. You got to say what kind of so what big idea point, right, is being made through that. So this is really only two of the three parts. Okay, what about this one? Through its contrasting river and shore scenes, Twain's Huckleberry Finn suggests that to find the true expression of American ideals, one must leave quote unquote civilized society and go back to nature. What do you think about that one? Is this a good thesis statement? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Why or why not? Why? All right, this one's much better. Notice how it's got all the three parts. Now, depending on the intro paragraph, it might be redundant naming the story, but for our purpose here, I needed to include it. So it's got the argument, one must leave. Notice that force that modal operator must, that kind of demand there, right? Must leave. So civilized society and go back to nature. It's got the how, the contrasting river and shore scenes, right? So it's got the good stuff. Okay, and it says who's saying it, right? Okay. So it's got the how, the what, and the why. It answers the so what typo there. Okay, what about this one? Edgar Allan Poe's work was affected greatly by the current events of his life, converting his family life, his childhood, and his career. Semicolon. These events changed his style and subject of his works. Is this a good thesis statement for literary analysis? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell me why. All right. Deadpool disapproves of this one. This also has some issues. The what is missing. Like, what work specifically are you pointing to, right? And the why is incomplete. Also, it just seems to be like about a biography, a kind of biographical um, report thesis. So, and it's not even really controversial. I can't imagine anyone disagreeing with this. So it's got a lot of problems here. This is kind of like an off topic, not really a literary analysis thesis statement at all. Okay. Oops. So how about this one? All right, pop-up just came up. I'm trying to get rid of it. I don't know. There we go. So let's look at another example. There is a lot of symbolism in the Scarlet Letter. Is that a good thesis statement? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell me why. Yeah, this is not good. As the horse says, no, sir, I don't like it. Right? That's just a fact. There's no argument here. Okay, let's try another one. So it's about the same story. Hawthorne's use of symbolism in the Scarlet Letter falters and ultimately breaks down with the introduction of the character Pearl. Does this have all the three parts? Does this seem like some claim about what the author's trying to argue and through what devices? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell me if it's doing that. Okay, this is like what the GIF shows. Not quite. Okay, this has got a problem with it. It's not arguing anything philosophically, right? And it would be even better to say symbols of what. You want to be kind of specific, not just saying symbolism. You might want to say through the Scarlet Letter and I don't know, the daughter's name of Pearl, right, being symbols of something, okay? And not only that, the why is it's off topic. This isn't a critique of whether the book is good or not. That is not what you're supposed to be doing with this kind of essay. So remember that. This is not a personal opinion about the quality or value. It's about what arguments do you see and how does the author show this to you? How can you prove that that argument's in the story? Quote unquote proof. Okay. Here's another one. The character of Ben in Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman is a crucial character. Does that have all the parts? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell me why. Yeah, this is also insufficient. Okay. The character of Ben being a crucial character. Okay. To argue what point? Just saying he's an important character, that there's nothing. I can't even imagine writing an essay about that without more information. This is too vague. It's not really saying what Miller's trying to argue through the crucial character of Ben. Okay, let's try another one. Through the protagonist Paul's experience behind the lines sorry, let me say it again. It's kind of through the protagonist Paul's experience behind the lines at a Russian prisoner of war camp, and especially under bombardment in the trenches, Remarque realistically shows how war dehumanizes a person. Sorry, I said that so badly. Tell me, is this one a good thesis statement or not? Does it have all the parts? Explain. All right, this is a good one. This is it has the why, the argument, the how they do it through these experiences at those three different parts, right? So again, they're not putting literary devices in there, but that's okay. There's a whole lot of stuff implied about the authorial choices, literary devices. This is a very advanced thesis talking about the internal conflict, right, going on is what's implied here about, and the external conflict of having all this trauma, right, and how it affected the character of Paul and how it dehumanized him, and therefore you can make the universal argument trying to say that Remarque is trying to make a kind of anti-war argument throughout his book. Okay, we can anticipate what the author of the thesis will prove through the rest of the paper, right? We know he's going to probably have a paragraph about the experience behind the lines, probably going to have a paragraph about the Russian prisoner of war camp. He's probably going to have a paragraph about the bombardment in the trenches. And since it says especially, this person would probably have an essay that has it at the end because he wants to build to a kind of a climax in their own essay of the strongest example that kind of quote unquote proves this is what the author is arguing. Super good. Okay, so which is the best? Tell me in the box. All right. So, what should a thesis look like? Our initial question, many ways, right? Depends on the purpose. For literary analysis, though, you need to have at least one element of fiction or drama or poetry expressed in the work, like character, plot, structure, idea, theme, symbolism, style, imagery, blah, blah. Okay. For an argumentative essay, you need to tell your reader what you believe and 2 reasons why you believe it. Okay. So it just kind of depends on the kind of argument we're doing. Rhetorical, it would be the same thing, except it be instead of a literary element, it would be a rhetorical element. And we'll talk more about that next semester. Okay. So if you're writing an argumentative thesis, it would be something more like, it would be the same kind of thing, 1 to 2 sentences long. It'd be towards the end of an intro paragraph. That's the same, but it's more about some subject that you're trying to argue. It's not going to be about necessarily you arguing what somebody else is arguing. Okay. So a sentence frame that could be for a thesis. That might be, your claim, right? Like donuts are the best breakfast food, right? Reason 1, you can eat with your hands. Reason 2, it's got lots of sugars to give you that energy boost, right? I don't agree with that, but just making something up, right? Depending on the subject. Okay. Come on, computer. There we go. So remember, the claim is what you believe without saying I believe, though, or I think. You don't want that. So there's this game called Super Fight we're going to play a lot later in the year. It's just a arguing fun game about, who would win in a fight and why. So here's an example just to kind of show you the difference between a literary analysis and an argumentative thesis. Okay, so the way the game works is you've got two characters or set of characters that are in a fight, and you pull them randomly from a deck, and then each of them get two attribute cards, which could be positive or negative. So let's say a hipster armed with a lightsaber who is literally afraid of his own shadow versus a reggae band that can teleport but has no depth perception. Who would win in a fight? And then you would say, well, you'd think about it, you'd kind of come up with a couple reasons. Let's say a reggae band, right, would win because there's more of them, and if they can all teleport, right, they could sneak attack on him, and he seems like he's a really scared guy, right? Reason two might be because they can teleport again because of the teleportation. They could avoid getting hurt by the lightsaber. So, so I guess to shorten that up, that would be reggae band was your claim, right? Reason one would be, claim would be reggae band wins over the hipster. Reason one, sheer numbers. Reason two, the ability to teleport. And there's kind of a hinted reason three because hipster's such a coward. Okay. And you can have, of course, more than two reasons. I'm just showing you the minimum you would want for any kind of compelling argument would be two reasons. So for literary analysis thesis, right, 1 to 2 sentences in length towards the end of an intro paragraph tells us what you think and a couple reasons why you think it, but it's going to be more about what you think the author might be trying to be doing or what the story shows us. Okay. Now, for literary analysis, the thesis needs to be thematic, like we talked about earlier in some of those examples. And it's one of the things that you want to do that's a good trick to come up with your claim of what you think, because that's kind of hard, is try to figure out like what the theme of the story is, or some themes, like brainstorm some themes, and then you can kind of turn it into a thesis by making it an argument. So what is Romeo and Juliet about? What are some of the themes in the story that you remember from last year? Type that in the chat box. The text box there, excuse me. So hopefully you said something like, fate versus free will, deception, fickleness of youth, love, dishonesty. I mean, there's so many things in there. The foolishness of the human heart, especially when it comes to love and hate, something like that, right? So you want to pick some theme that you picked, right? Love, I think most people probably said, and fate, those are the biggies, okay? Now, then you'd want to pick one, right? So you got to think, well, of those bunch that I just listed, what would be the one you could talk the most about, right? Did you have the most evidence for? So let's say we picked love, okay? So then I would, using the thesis parts, I would say like Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet illustrates how love is both an ugly and beautiful part of the human condition. So now I'm getting at least most of my thesis, but I don't say how yet, right? So I've got the theme, then I turn it into an argument about it. What is Shakespeare arguing? So I said, okay, Shakespeare's arguing how love is an ugly and beautiful part of the human condition. Well, let's just say that's what he's arguing, just for argument's sake. But how does he show me this? I'm going to pick the literary devices of paradoxes and antitheses, right? There's a whole lot of kind of contradictions going on and opposites, okay, all over the place. You may not remember, but trust me, it's there, okay? So then I'm going to take, okay, I've got my theme, then I turned it into an argument, and then I had to add the how. So here we go. In the classic tragedy Romeo and Juliet, William Shakespeare argues through his use of paradoxes and antitheses that love is both an ugly and beautiful part of the human condition. Okay. So it does take some creativity and imagination. Writing is art. Okay. So notice how I didn't, this one's a little stronger. Okay. Remember how I said just a little bit before that just name dropping thesis statements aren't necessarily the best thesis statements, although that's fine for us at the beginning here. But you can hint at the two as long as the hint's in there. So look at this example. Notice I'm hinting at paradoxes and antitheses without naming them like that. Exactly. So I go, in the classic tragedy Romeo and Juliet, William Shakespeare argues that love is paradoxically an ugly and beautiful part of the human condition. So maybe I didn't set out how I'm going to talk about paradoxes and antitheses in my body paragraphs, but I could clarify that with my topic sentences. And I'm not just saying with paradoxes, right? I'm showing the paradox of ugly and beautiful. I might even organize my body paragraphs as ugly on one hand, beautiful on the other, or vice versa. And I could talk about paradoxes and antitheses in both body paragraphs. So it just kind of gives you a little freedom there of how you're going to organize it. Okay, so your guys' turn. I want you to try in the chat box or the text box there. What is Paper Menagerie about? What themes are in the story? Make a list. Okay, now pick one of those ones you listed and turn it into an argument. What is Ken Liu arguing about Paper Menagerie, about that theme that you picked? All right, and now I want you to tell me what authorial tools, tricks of the trade, right? Literary devices, choices show us. Oh, sorry, his argument, not her. Typo there. I had changed stories on the slideshow and I forgot that one. Sorry. All right. So now that you have those parts, I have a couple of thesis frames to show you that you can use to turn that into a thesis statement. So here's one. So I've got the author's last name, and you're going to pick some verb. Uses is overused. Oh, see, I just did it. But, something like that, like utilizes, implements, uses, uh, whatever you're trying to, these two devices at least. Could you have more? Sure, but let's just pick two for brevity's sake. To what? Again, you're going to have to pick a verb. So, and by the way, those devices should be easy for you to pick if you look at the pattern in your ARNs, right? That's why I have you have that label saying how with a lit device next to it, at least one. You're going to start to see trends. And so you'll be able to find them. Like which one do you have at least a few on that you could use to fill up an essay on, right? So that you think you have a lot of meat. So you pick those couple of hows, okay? To argue or illustrate or claim, again, pick another verb that, okay, whatever it is you think is being argued, okay? Remember, your argument is about what you think the author is showing us, the readers, right? And that needs to be some kind of thematic or philosophical claim about life or the human condition or the subject at hand, okay? And that's the why of your ARNs. Again, see why I make you do this, I hope, right? I know it might seem like it's a lot, but it's so helpful. It's just like if you were going to remodel a house or just almost all of the effort goes into the prep work. But then if you do that prep work, it makes the actual ending so much more brief and smooth and rewarding, okay? So here's an example from a book called A Separate Piece by John Knowles, okay? Now in an intro paragraph, I should have already mentioned the title and the author's full name, so I'm just going to use the author's last name. So Knowles, and I'm going to pick a verb, right? Oops, I forgot the little circle there. Oh, where'd it go? Ooh, sorry about that. Let me back that up. Okay, so Knowles, let's say, utilizes, okay, the woods and the summer and winter seasons, okay. Now notice I didn't say setting or a contrast of settings, but they're both a different kind of setting stuff or symbols. I gave them considered symbols, right? So I didn't say symbolism and setting. I'm implying it, okay. So Knowles utilizes the woods and the summer and winter seasons to argue that, but I got rid of that because it didn't work. So I put that there. You can get rid of it. Depends on how you shape your why. So it didn't work for me, so I got rid of it. So argue how war can destructively, reshape one's personal identity. Another typo. Oh man, I'll go back and fix that later for you guys. Okay, so again, Knowles uses the woods and the summer and winter seasons to argue how war can destructively reshape one's personal identity. Okay. All right. Let's do another one with Snow Day. I told you a little bit about the gist of that story, so let me show another example that's maybe more familiar. So again, my intro paragraph, I should have already mentioned the full title and the author's name and the genre that it's a short story, as opposed to the other one being a novel. So here we go. So Hopkinson, I'm gonna pick a verb, employs, right? Elements of mystery and the internal conflict of the narrator. Okay, so again, I'm being more on the nose of the devices, and that's okay. That's great for what we're doing at the beginning here. So Hopkinson employs elements of mystery and the internal conflict of the narrator to argue that one must know who they are in order to know what they truly want for themselves. Okay, so that's a kind of universal connection to the reader in a way of some wisdom about life that maybe Hopkinson is trying to tell us through the story, where the protagonist needs to decide, is she a beautiful loser or an adventurer, right? And to make all of us, the readers, read ourselves through that ambiguous ending, right? To make us, I could have added that too, an ambiguous ending, right? So I could have had 3 in there. Anyway, that ambiguous ending to make us try to think about, what kind of person am I, to help us have a more fulfilling, happy life, to get what it is we actually want. Okay, so and here's another template though. You can do it another way. I'm going to move some parts around, but still have all the same parts. So looking at this through again, picking a verb, through the implementation of elements of mystery and the internal conflict of the narrator. So instead of having it in the middle, I have it at the beginning, right? With that dependent clause here at the beginning, right? Here comes the main part of the sentence. Hopkinson claims that one must know who they are in order to know what they truly want for themselves. So same ideas, just moved it around. You just got to kind of think about what works for you. And of course, these are not the only 2-sentence frames for theses, for literary analysis essays that exist. I'm just showing you a couple to get you started, to help you out. Okay, so what I want you to do now, okay, is you are going to write a thesis statement for homework on a separate thing, not here in the Ed puzzle. Okay, I've got this document, a document for you to fill out that has these 2 templates to help you out. Okay, and hopefully all you've already listed some, just like we listed some themes for the paper menagerie, and you tried out, listed out themes for Romeo and Juliet. I want you to do the same thing for paper menagerie. You're going to be thinking about, what are some themes? Turn that into a claim, and then make it a thesis statement. So we've talked about paper menagerie many times now. You should have lots of great ideas from all our conversations in your ARNs. And this is a pass-fail assignment, so you're going to need to keep doing it until you get a pass. To help you out, I put a link on the homework document to a thing called Quillbot, because the quill.org is not ready yet for you to do practice thesis statements on. So it has kind of its own stuff that we can do, but we're not there yet. So I'm just going to use a different software system that's real easy. And what it does is, as you're writing your thesis statement, it'll help you fix your grammar and syntax, okay, and give you suggestions on how to fix it. So I would use that if you're worried. You don't have to, but it's just there for you if you'd like, before you submit the assignment for approval, or for me to have you resubmit until you get that. All right, so hopefully this helps you guys out. I also hope some of this is bringing things back from last year, and I can't wait to read your thesis statements. Bye, guys.